he had brought up. We didn't have time to just slide it into another meeting, so we just scheduled this one for the next 2 hours to do that. So our administration will address what was submitted by Mr. Turner. Just so that everybody knows, this is not a public hearing. This is not an open house. This is administration is going to respond to council as to what was submitted. Council will then have opportunity to ask questions of administration, and then council will also obviously have the opportunity to bring forward any motions to a future meeting that might come out of this meeting today. So I'm waiting for Jody, but pardon me? I can say it. Special committee of the whole meetings are streamed live and recorded on YouTube. Attendees acknowledge that in accordance with section 20/2 of the Access to Information Act and Section 4C of the Protection of Privacy Act, names, addresses, and other details provided when speaking at a council meeting will be publicly shared. Should you have any questions related to the collection or disclosure of personal information, please contact the Legislative and Advisory Services Division for the Town of High River by sending an email to atipp@highriver.ca. So on that note, I will ask for a motion from Councillor Brookwell that the Committee of the Whole adopt the agenda for the Special Committee of the Whole meeting, High River Ratepayers Community Group, July 13th, as presented.
I'll give you that motion, Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Question, Vicki?
I thought we were also, as part of this agenda, going to have a discussion after we talk to admin with members of the High River Ratepayers group.
The first item on the first thing that we're going to do is have administration present to us. Then council will have the opportunity to ask questions back to administration, and then if we have time, we can have is Mr. Turner here? It's John. There's John. If John wants to respond and ask questions, or some member of the.
Could we add that to the agenda, just so we have a record of it, please?
I've got. I can just add it on the Q&A, council, but it's all.
Thank you.
It's all if we've got time. We've got 2 hours, so I'm expecting we've got lots of time to do it. But priority one is council making sure that we're on the same page with with what administration is presenting. So. On that note, I'll pass it over to Sonia, who's going to present along with Riley and Jordan.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor, Council, and members of the public. We're pleased to be here today to provide information in response to the High River Ratepayers Community Group. Next slide. Administration welcomes the opportunity to share with Council and residents the work that has been completed, the initiatives that are currently underway, and what we'll be focusing on in the future. Today, Riley, Jordan, and I will share staff costing information related to the finance function review, budget process, asset management, project management, and performance measurements. The information shared today will be shared with Council and the public as part of the minutes from this meeting. Next slide. I will begin by sharing or providing a little bit of background. Since 2021, administration has been taking intentional actions to align the organization with Council's strategic direction and long-term vision. At the heart of that vision is the concept of being people-first community and organization. This means placing residents, employees, businesses, community partners, and community outcomes at the center of decision-making and service delivery. The People First philosophy originated through Council's strategic visioning work, which dates back to 2018 and was formally embedded into the town plan adopted in 2024. Today, it continues to guide our planning processes, service delivery models, organizational priorities, and operational decisions. Our objective is simply not to deliver service, but to ensure those services are responsive, accessible, and centered on community needs. Over the past several years, the organization has experienced considerable change and transformation in support of Council's strategic priorities and community needs, and an evolving legislative environment. We have reviewed and adjusted our organizational structure to better support efficient and effective service delivery. We have right-sized our leadership team and evaluated staffing resources to ensure we have the right people in the right roles to support the community. We have rebuilt the aquatic service delivery model, shifting from a largely casual workforce to a part-time, full-time staffing structure, with the goal of providing consistent coverage to promote a safe and enjoyable experience for all users. We have also undertaken comprehensive service reviews and functional audits in areas such as finance, communications, engineering, and the development permitting process. There are additional reviews planned as capacity and resources allow. A common objective throughout these initiatives has been to improve customer service, streamline and modernize workflows, reduce inefficiencies, and create a more consistent and reliable service experience. While many of these improvements occur behind the scenes and may not always be visible to residents, they are having a meaningful impact on how services are delivered. We continue to adapt our approach as community needs evolve and as Council establishes new priorities. One of the key findings that emerged from many of the reviews was the need to modernize the town's technological systems. For more than 30 years, the town relied on a single core software system, it's called Bellamy, to support our operations. While it served us well for many years, the system has become outdated, increasingly cumbersome to use, and was approaching its end of life. In 2020, administration began a comprehensive assessment of organizational technology needs, followed by an extensive review of available solutions. It was ultimately determined that no single software platform could effectively meet all of our business requirements, leading the town to pursue a strategy consisting of 4 specialized systems: a financial management system, a human capital management system, a records and information management system, and a planning and land management solution. The human capital management, or HCM, which included payroll, was identified as a priority due to the absence of the HR system at the time and the limitations of the payroll functionality within our current Bellamy system. The HCM implementation is now approximately 90% complete, while the finance management and planning systems are in their final stages of implementation. The records and information management system has recently entered a pilot phase. This multi-year initiative represents a significant organizational transformation and requires many staffing resources to successfully implement. Each implementation is complex and involves customized system configurations, extensive data migration, and rigorous testing to ensure the solution meets operational requirements and performs effectively. To give an example, it took us 1.5 years to implement the payroll and core HR components of our human capital management system with a full-time dedicated staff member and part-time assistance from HR and finance staff, as well as vendor support. However, once fully in place, all of these integrated systems will improve efficiency, collaboration, data management, and service delivery while supporting long-term operational excellence. As we discuss all of these operational improvements, it's important to recognize the realities of municipal government operations. While continuous improvement is a priority, municipal operations require a careful balance. Municipalities are responsible for delivering a broad range of services and meeting significant legislative obligations within finite financial and organizational resources. Decisions regarding service levels, operational models, and future improvements must balance the best practices with affordability, staffing capacity, infrastructure requirements, operational demand, council priorities, and taxpayer input. Our responsibility is to ensure that improvements are practical, sustainable, and provide meaningful value to residents while maintaining responsible stewardship of public resources. As part of our presentation today, we are excited to share the information related to the work that has been completed to date, the initiatives that are underway, and what is planned for the future. Next slide. I'll share a little bit about our staffing complement and costs. Municipal government is fundamentally a service organization. Unlike maybe many private industries, our primary product is the delivery of service to residents, businesses, and the community. Whether it's maintaining parks and roads, operating recreation facilities, processing development applications, providing protective services, and supporting community programs. All of these functions depend on the people who perform the work. As a result, labor is the town's single largest operating expense. This is not unique to High River. It is common across all municipal governments and public sector organizations because services are delivered by people. The investment in our workforce directly supports Council's vision of creating a people-first community and organization. A people-first organization recognizes that exceptional community service begins with attracting, retaining, and developing and supporting qualified employees. By investing in our workforce, we strengthen our ability to provide responsive customer services, maintain service levels, and also deliver positive outcomes. I'd like to walk through the trends in our staffing complement and labor costs over the last 6 years. First, it's important to note that while our labor budget has increased from approximately $14 million in 2021 to $18 million in 2026, overall, our staffing complement has remained relatively stable. Full-time equivalent positions, or FTEs, have fluctuated only modestly, moving from 148.19 FTEs in 2021 to 156.61 FTEs in 2026. In 2021, labor budgets were developed primarily using estimates and historical data rather than actual position level costs. In 2022, Human Resources became directly involved in the labor budget review process to improve position accuracy and workforce planning. This resulted in a more accurate accounting of seasonal and casual positions. In 2021, the town added the Protective Services Division, or our CPOs, as well as seen an increase in community counseling roles and added other roles including facility operations and health and safety. In 2023, the town adopted a new labor budget template that incorporated actual benefit costs. So we were getting a little closer to being precise. Council remuneration was also incorporated into the budget reporting at this time, although it did not include the FTE, was not included in the FTE count. Several positions were removed or reduced during this year, resulting in a slight decrease in overall staffing levels. In 2024, the town implemented a comprehensive compensation redesign, which I'll talk a little bit more later. The new compensation policy took effect in July 1st of 2024. This was a significant milestone and represented a strategic investment in attracting and retaining qualified employees. Staffing changes themselves were minimal, with only small increases in casual and seasonal resources. In 2025, we experienced the first full year under our new compensation structure. Staffing changes included at phase 1 of the updated aquatic staffing structure. For 2026, we continue to focus on aligning resources with service delivery needs. Staffing adjustments include the final phase of the aquatic staffing structure and the addition of the Director of Community Services position. This was offset by reductions in several supervisory and administrative roles. Through organizational restructuring, we have reduced management and supervisory positions where possible and shifted resources towards direct service delivery that provide value to residents. The primary driver of the labor cost growth has been the compensation review and redesign completed in 2024 and the change in the aquatic staffing structure driven by community feedback. I wanted to just share a little bit more about the compensation review that took place in 2024. To provide a little bit more context, in late 2022, Council requested administration to conduct a comprehensive review and redesign of our compensation program. The town engaged a compensation expert to review our compensation rates, structures, and practices. Prior to the redesign, the town was experiencing high employee turnover as staff left for higher paying opportunities. We were also finding it increasingly difficult to recruit qualified candidates because of our compensation package was not competitive with regional market, especially for leadership positions. The review identified that the town had fallen behind the comparative market in salary competitiveness and in compensation practices. The review also recommended an updated compensation policy, a new job evaluation tool, and new pay structures. Next slide, please. To highlight the recruitment pressures that we were facing at the time, this table represents the number of recruitments since 2018. Although there was a drop in 2021 due to the pandemic, which included closures and layoffs in those years, there was a steady increase between 2018 and 2019 and a significant increase in 2022. Although there was a decrease in 2023, the number remained well above our historical average, which was about 35 recruitments per year. With the compensation program announced in 2023 and implemented in 2024, we have seen a drastic decrease in recruitment, signaling the retention strategy, which included the new compensation redesign, is working to retain top talent. Next slide, please. To provide some more context around labor costs, employee costs count for approximately 63% of every general revenue dollar collected by the town. General revenue includes property taxes, facility user fees, rental revenues, and grants from other levels of government and agencies. Almost $2 million of the total labor budget is funded through utility revenues. This means that roughly $15.3 million is funded through general revenues of approximately $27.3 million. It is also important to recognize that not all staffing costs are funded through taxation. For example, a significant portion of the community services staffing is supported through external government grants and funding programs. In summary, overall, the town has maintained a relatively stable workforce while strategically aligning resources to support frontline service delivery. Investments in compensation have strengthened our ability to compete for talent, reduce turnover, and ensure we can continue to deliver quality services to residents now and into the future. Next slide, please. I'd like to just switch now to introduce the finance function review. In 2021, or it was late 2021, early 2022, it became clear that our finance function required a comprehensive review and reset. This function review was the first of many that we have completed. To support this work, we engaged NAD Consulting early in 2022 to assess the finance function and provide recommendations for future improvement. The goal was to transform finance from primarily a transactional and administrative function into a more proactive, strategic partner that could better support organizational decision-making. As part of the review, NAD Consulting conducted interviews with the finance team, as well as key clients internally to identify challenges, gaps, and opportunities for improvement. The review identified a detailed picture of the division's current state, including work allocation, processes, and organizational structure. Next slide, please. One of the most significant findings was that approximately 80% of finance team's time was spent on transaction processing and administrative activities. This left little capacity for strategic analysis, financial planning, and value-added support to the organization. Other findings, next slide, sorry. Thanks. Other findings highlighted that the financial software system in place at the time was outdated and unable to provide the level of analysis and reporting required by a modern organization. The existing financial software created operational inefficiencies and constrained the team's ability to provide strategic value. The report also identified the need for changes to the leadership structure and overall organization of the finance function. It highlighted that the team was managed, not led, and there was a lack of strategic direction and a proactive client service approach. Minimal involvement by finance in organizational planning, budgeting, and forecasting was also found. Finance's role was limited to primarily entering values into the system. It also found inefficient transaction processes and accounting workflows due to system limitations and supporting processes, as well as reporting was largely basic and reactive with little focus on performance measurement. It also found that limited financial analysis and advisory services resulted in reactive versus proactive support, and that finance-specific risks were not formally documented, monitored, or mitigated. Many financial processes were also highly manual, undocumented, and inefficient, and it also found that the team culture, work environment, and capacity were challenges were negatively affecting staff. Next slide, please. The recommendations from this review, which you can see here right from the report, establish the foundation for modernizing finance, improving systems, and shifting resources towards more strategic and analytical work. To highlight, the recommendations were prioritizing a financial management system implementation and leveraging the finance review recommendations to support its success, adjust the finance structure and capacity to adjust workload pressures and enable change, strengthen leadership culture and strategic planning within the finance division, improve processes to increase efficiency and effectiveness, adopt a client-centric approach by better understanding and meeting stakeholder needs, enhancing collaboration through improved information sharing and organizational internet, which we've already done, updating templates, forms, reports, and documents to improve consistency, and strengthen procurement by establishing a dedicated function and updated policy, review service models for municipal assessment, and implement remaining improvements opportunities that were identified throughout the report. I am now going to turn it over to Jordan, our Manager of Financial Services, to talk through what we've done, what we're doing, and what is planned for the future as it relates to these recommendations. He will also speak to the budget process and discuss some of the financial performance measures.
Thank you, Sonia. Sonia has covered flip slides there, thank you. Sonia has covered the background of the finance function review, why it was started, the findings, and the recommendations that came out of that work, and I'm going to pick it up from that point. The FFR, which is the finance function review, led to a series of recommendations, and those recommendations became the roadmap for implementation. Those recommendations could not be completed all at once. They required system change, they required structure change, process change, and a shift in how finance supports the organization as a whole. That work needed to be phased in sequence. Finance also had to keep the organization operating while those changes were being made. So the story from this point forward for the finance function is about implementing those recommendations. I'm going to walk through what has already been implemented, what is currently underway, what still needs to be completed, how that shaped our 2026 budget process, what changes are planned for 2027, and then close with the town's financial health indicators. Next slide, please. Perfect. The finance function review recommendations can be grouped into several work streams. The first one is ERP and system modernization. This was the core work stream because many of the other recommendations depend on it. The financial system in place at the time, Bellamy, was more than 30 years old and required a high level of manual work. Even basic reporting requirements required staff time to pull data, organize it, review it, and turn it into a format that could actually be used. Replacing that system was the prerequisite for moving forward, moving the finance function into a more strategic role. Without that system change, it would be difficult to improve reporting, automate processes, support budget managers, or provide the analysis and advice expected from a modern finance function. The second work stream was structure, leadership, and capacity. The review recommended adjusting the finance organizational structure. That included how finance fit within the organization as a whole, how it was led, and what capacity existed within the division itself. Leadership was identified as a constraint on the department's ability to move forward and from transactional processing into a more strategic function. The division needed leadership with the experience and shared direction to guide that change. capacity was also part of that recommendation. That included professional capacity in financial analysis and advice, as well as the capacity to manage and use modern accounting and finance systems. The third work stream was process efficiency and automation. This connects directly into capacity. Under the prior model, entering, processing, and managing thousands of transactions consumed much of the division's time. With modern ERP, more of that work can be system-driven. At maturity, tools such as automated document reading and workflow automation can reduce manual data entry and free up staff time. That recovered time is what allows finance to shift more attention toward reporting, forecasting, analysis, and advice. That strategic function. The recommendation was not only to install software, it was a redesign process around what software can do and use the system to produce better information. The fourth work stream was client service and reporting. The review recommended identifying finance clients. That includes internal clients, such as departments and budget leaders, and external clients, such as residents, governments, and other interested parties. The purpose is to define the service model, document client needs, set expectations, and move toward a more service-focused finance function. The next work stream identified was procurement. Once the system structure and process work moves further ahead, the town can look at a procurement function within finance. The purpose would be to support procurement planning, policy, compliance, and purchase discipline, and value for money across the organization. The final work stream was the municipal assessment function. This involves developing service expectations for the assessment function and clarifying how that function connects with budget planning, tax rate modeling, and the rest of the finance process. So when we talk about implementation, we are not talking about just one project. We are talking about several connected work streams, systems, structure, process, service model, reporting, procurement, and assessment altogether. Next slide, please. Okay. So several major pieces have already been implemented and have made significant progress. The new general ledger, as council's aware, was designed and implemented. The GL design was completed in 2025, and we used it for the 2026 budget. That is a foundational change for the finance function because the GL, which general ledger, if you're not aware, controls how financial information is coded, how it's grouped, how it's reported, and how we can analyze it. The next thing that happened was Business Central was launched in early January 1st, 2026. That moved the financial system replacement from Bellamy. It went into Business Central and is now in operation right now. Finance's reporting structure has also changed. Finance now reports to the Director of Corporate Services. That is Sonia. That aligns with the finance for with the broader corporate support model. Professional capacity has also been added. A senior analyst, financial management and advice position was added in 2023, and a second position is currently in recruitment. That is important because the desired future state is not only transaction processing, it is forecasting, analysis, reporting, and advice. So we need that CPA level professional capacity. Finance now leads the budget process. Sorry, I just got mixed up there. Finance now leads the budget process and presents it to council. That is a major change from the starting point identified in the finance function review, where finance had only limited involvement in the planning, budgeting, and forecasting. Other implementation work has also moved forward. The assessment service model, business case has been completed, and the recommendations are being implemented right now. Next slide, please. Let's talk about what we're currently working on. Some of the work is still underway. A lot of it is. The revenue module is still being implemented within the ERP. This includes utilities, taxation, accounts receivable, and payment management. Basically, it's a module that fits on top of Business Central. It's specific to municipalities. Business Central is a Microsoft product, and so we need a secondary developer to fit on top of that, the municipal portion of that. And so that's what we're currently implementing right now. This remains part of the overall ERP implementation, and the town has been working through some vendor challenges this year, and so it did move the timeline back from the original target. Our go live tentative date right now for those revenue modules is in August, and we're looking forward to that. ERP reporting and automation are still maturing. Business Central really does unlock a lot of the opportunity for us to automate some of our processes. The new GL and ERP will allow deeper analysis for budget managers and better information for council on service levels, but those reports and processes need to be built, tested, configured, and then tried out in real life. The configuration work is underway as well. We are also reviewing the Business Central functionality, including Microsoft Copilot, which was not contemplated in the original understanding of Business Central, but since then Copilot has made its way into Business Central itself. So we want to see if we can, in the spirit of modernizing the finance software, if we can see if there's a Copilot factor in there that can help with the automation. Yeah, so that aligns with the spirit of the finance function review recommendation, which is a move to modern financial system. And then assessment timing improvements are also underway. If you recall, earlier this year, Stuart, the town assessor, and I brought forward the issue of assessment timing. The current timeline created assessment risk and limited how precise our tax modeling could be during budget deliberations. During the budget process, if you recall, we used tax modeling to estimate the tax rate, levy impacts for different project and service level options. That model was based on an estimated assessment value. When final assessment values came in, they were about 1% lower, if you remember, than the estimate. Now, 1% variance is still a strong estimate, but it was not close enough to avoid reviewing any changed conditions between budget approval and the final assessment. That led to us to consider those budget amendments that we brought to better align with council direction during budget deliberations. So moving to an earlier assessment declaration will improve this process. It will give us assessment figures that are closer to final during budget deliberations, which will improve our tax base estimates, tax modeling, and financial planning. A second CPA, not yet. Second CPA position is currently in recruitment. That capacity is important because, as I mentioned before, the transition from transaction processing to analysis and advice requires a CP level financial expertise. The new ERP is designed to reduce and in some cases eliminate manual processes and administration. That creates the opportunity for finance function to focus more on analysis, reporting, forecasting, and advice, and strategy will reduce the amount of FTE or keeping the FTE count stable. Budget process standardization is also underway. I'll get into that a little bit more, what happened in 2026, but the 2026 budget used the new GL. The next step is to use the budget modules inside of Business Central to improve our budget compilation, reporting for council deliberations, and reporting after the budget is approved as well. Now you can move on to the next slide. The next phase is about finishing the transformation and then stabilizing. First, we need to complete that revenue module implementation within the ERP. This is required to complete the system foundation. Next, we need to build ERP management and configuration capacity in-house. The ERP is now a major town asset. To get value from it, we need internal capacity to manage reporting, configuration workflows, and continuous improvement. The alternative is that we farm it out to our consultants using like a ticketed approach, but we'd rather do that in-house so that we can be more flexible and agile. We also need to develop a procurement function plan. The finance function review identified, as I mentioned, the procurement as an opportunity. So we need to, the next step is to formalize the central procurement function within finance and get those clear roles and responsibilities around procurement. So right now, talk about procurement a little bit. It's managed at the division level. We have broad system and limit controls. The opportunity is to move forward with a more consistent managed approach that improves compliance, bargaining power, and efficiency. The new ERP can also support a more robust purchase order system that would improve our visibility over committed costs and support more accurate accrual estimates at the period end. Next, we need to establish a period close and reporting rhythm. This means timely period close, regular budget to actual reporting, variance review, and useful information for all useful information for budget managers, and all within the GL structure. And we want it on a predictable timeline. Right now, Business Central has been implemented, but the revenue is still in the old system. That creates a challenge when generating reports because we're pulling from two different systems, bring them together for any financial information we might need. It's a heavy lift. So once we complete the revenue module, we'll help bring the reporting structure all together. Next, we need to define service expectations for finance. This includes identifying finance clients, documenting needs, setting expectations, developing service levels, and creating a list of reports required to meet client and council needs. And finally, we need to stabilize finance operations after a long transformation period. The town will have moved through a finance function review, whole system replacement, new GL redesign, which we roll out to all budget managers, been structure and leadership changes, budget process changes, and reporting improvements. So the next step is to turn that work into a stable system that we can rely on as needed when needed. Yeah, next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to talk about, going to get a little deeper into 2026 process and kind of explain how last year's budget process kind of fit in with this transformational plan and how it impacted it. So just to recap, we did mention during budget deliberations that this is a heavy transition year. Namely, it was implementation of the new GL. We weren't even in the new ERP at that time. We implemented the budget under the new GL and then went live with the ERP. So at the same time, the budget still had to be, so the new GL was implemented, and in the first year, that made some line-by-line comparisons more difficult. If you remember when we were trying to do trend analysis, and we were trying to explain that we have a long history of all the different types of costs, but with the new GL, we had to manually put them together so that we could do a good apples-to-apples comparison. So that added a challenge. But going forward, comparisons will become a lot cleaner because we'll be in the same GL as we put more data into it and as coding flows through the system. The budget was delivered while ERP work continued, and that is important context because it shows that transformation work is happening all at the same time as a regular operations, which budget is. The budget package included, to talk about the deliverables on the budget package, it included all full labor details, a detailed operating budget for the current year, forecast for future years, and capital information for the current year and future years, as per the MGA requirements. One of the main challenges for finance was compiling the budget under the new GL and a new process because the ERP was not fully implemented in 2025. We could not use the budget module in the GL, so the budget had to be compiled manually in Excel. As a result, the reports were built from Excel files used during the transition period. Division summaries this year were also added to public view. This was the first year that town developed a summary document for each division with snapshot of the past year and the budget change, all available on the website. The town also included a line-by-line expense detail for the budget. The public reports included individual line items for each cost center, and that information is available on the website as well. Future reports will present the information in a cleaner format once the budget module is implemented, configured, and refined within the ERP system. And that is a key improvement finance is looking forward to. It should reduce the heavy lift of budget compilation and data management and should free up more space for analysis, advice, and support to council and budget leaders. Next, 2027. The 2027 budget process is where more of the new functionality becomes visible. The town will use the new ERP reporting tools to compile and extract budget reports for consideration and deliberation. The same budget module will enable budget to actual reporting component, which is needed for good monitoring of spending. It will also enable us to build clear and consistent budget materials for public use and be able to adjust numbers and regenerate reports much easier than in the previous year. The town is moving to longer range forecasts as well. Operating will move toward a current year plus 5. Under the MGA, you require current year plus a 3-year plan. We interpret that conservatively as current year plus 3. And so this year we're going to go current year plus 5 to look at a further outlook. And with a capital budget, MGA requires current year plus 5. That's the way we interpret that. And then we are looking at current year plus 10 and then plus 20 further on to look at the longer range forecast for capital planning as well. So the goal for budget is to keep refining the budget process with timely and accessible information that supports informed decision making. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to take a step back. I want to close with the town's financial health indicators. The town's overall financial position remains strong based on several indicators used by the province to assess municipal financial health. The indicators on this slide mostly focus on debt, borrowing capacity, and revenue compared to expenses. The province also looks at other measures when municipalities submit their annual financial information return, which includes current ratio, population change, accumulated surplus or deficit, and investment in infrastructure. And for 2025, the province identified no municipal indicator flags for the town. So we'll just walk through this now. The first one is debt to revenue. Debt to revenue has fallen from 21.51% in 2020 to 7.07% in 2025. So that means that the town's debt level remains very low compared to revenue. The next one is called debt servicing ratio. That has also decreased from 2020. It was at 3.41, and now it's down to 2.04. So that leaves a lot of room for servicing our debt. So it's quite low. Borrowing capacity. This sits at 95.29. So that means if you take all of our available debt that we could borrow, according to the province, we've only used, we have 95.29% available for use. So it's a very low debt situation. And the debt per resident is only $164, so the debt burden is quite low. And as mentioned before, the province identified no municipal indicator flags when we submitted our information return, including no audit or intervention concerns, and no responses required by us. On a per resident basis, it's an interesting metric because you can kind of see on a per resident basis what our revenue and expenses are. You can see there that if you use total revenue excluding contributed total revenue excluding contributed tangible capital assets, which is like I think of it as like gifted assets. If you exclude those, it's 2,889 per resident in revenue, and if you take our expenses, that's 2,726. So our revenues are a little higher than expenses, but the revenues also include grants and transfers, so it's not just all taxation. So the overall, that's pretty much what I had to say, but the overall message is that town is financially stable, debt is low, debt servicing is manageable, borrowing capacity remains strong, and the province has identified no financial indicator concerns. That's the end of my section. I'll pass it over to Riley at this point. I think we're talking about asset management next. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. So I'm here to talk about, I'm the next presenter. We'll start off with asset management. One of the key processes the town continues to improve is asset management. Asset management integrates people, information, physical assets, financial planning to enable an informed decision to provide a sustainable delivery service. Understanding costs associated with asset management allows for those decisions to be made in a sustainable and consistent manner. The town's current value of assets is in excess of $800 million. This is not a static number and reflects current replacement costs. Work is ongoing with regards to refining and updating that number as the asset registry and asset conditions are ongoing in terms of updating. The town's asset management system is based on FCM's readiness scale. On the slide is one of 5 tables for the FCM readiness scale. FCM is Federation of Canadian Municipalities. This is an industry standard that most municipalities follow. Part of that readiness scale is to have a asset management roadmap. Ours was completed by Urban Systems and adopted by Council in November 2022. There is no right way of doing asset management. The asset management strategy helps articulate what is most important to the town to ensure we are focused and going in the same direction as everyone else. This provides high-level direction on how assets are managed and how we implement the system. Part of this plan includes a gap analysis. Asset management is a iterative process, is a process of incremental and continuous improvement, identifying the gap, identifying where you want to be, and how you will address that. It's never done. When we talk about conditions and the asset registry, that is something we will always be revisiting. Also part of the FCM readiness scale is requirement for an asset management policy. This was recently, well, not so recently, it was updated by Council in February of 2024. To help asset management, we purchased or procured PSD Citywide. That is a software package that manages our assets, so it tracks all the inventories, it tracks the conditions. This was awarded by Council in May of 2024. It is the first part of the implementation of the software was to develop an asset management plan, which you can see on the screen. The municipal infrastructure delivers critical services that are the foundation to our economic, social, environmental health and help us grow as a community. And it is important to be able to track these assets correctly. We're looking forward as the system matures. We are nearing the end of the implementation and being able to move into maintenance of the system. Part of the next steps will include asset management forecasting, reporting the current state and conditions of the assets, as well as informing the long-term capital process and feeding into the budget process and the multi-year plans that Jordan referenced earlier. So being able to feed into that 20-year capital and know what's coming in future years and being able to structure and plan our finances appropriately. Citywide, our asset management software, is not just asset management. Asset management crosses over with a number of other things, so it makes sense that the software package is a lot broader than just asset management. It also is currently overseeing permitting and helping streamline the process for planning and safety codes. It has taken over the work order system. Our work orders are directly tied to assets, so when work happens, it is tied to an asset and we know what cost or changes were made to that asset. Service requests, condition assessments, TCA, business licensing are other things that are also in Citywide. Moving on from asset management, we're going to take a quick look at project management and the town's approach for this. The town bases its project management on PMI's PMBOK, that is Project Management Institute, and PMBOK is Project Management Book of Knowledge. This is kind of the industry standard for what is project management, is the basis of when you see someone with a PMP designation that is managed by PMI, and their course material is the PMBOK. The town has a heavy focus on project charters through the budget process. Council sees those as part of the budget process, and the key is to identify stakeholders, clearly define the scope to minimize that scope creep, successful criteria, what the successful criteria and deliverables are, as well as mitigating risk. And again, that clear scope help minimizes that scope creep. Project management accountability. So the town has a couple different areas where we appoint or have that accountability. To assist staff, we utilize expertise in the field using consultants that have that expertise. For example, on the aquatics project, we hired a specific project manager. All our projects start with a project charter. You don't get a project without a project charter. Again, that's built right into the budget process. And so when there is a request for funding, there is already a scope and clearly identified to minimize that scope creep. Project management's part of new hire orientations. So sitting down and going through how we track our costs, the project charter, that is part of our onboarding process. We provide periodic training for staff with regards to project management and procurement. I think it was 1 or 2 years ago, we had our legal team in to go over kind of the pitfalls and learnings and how to properly do procurement and award to ensure we are compliant with all required legislation. ISO standards. This has been talked about a little bit. The town typically follows industry best practice. Most of these best practices mirror ISO in some form. For example, asset management, the town follows FCM readiness scale. FCM is largely based on ISO 55000. Another example is project management, where you have PMI and the PMBOK, which is a complementary process to ISO 90001, which is the project management section of ISO. Performance measures. Administration supports the importance of performance measures, benchmarking, and continuous improvement. Municipal performance cannot be accurately reduced to a simple pass or fail. A specific example is social benefit. It can be hard to measure or put a cost to what social benefit is. The engineers have tried. It doesn't always look good. When you have something like recreation that loses or is heavily subsidized with taxpayer funding, it's hard to have a financial metric that shows success because it will never be cost recovery. So what does that look like? What is the importance of something like that to the community and to council? Capital priority policy. So the town has a capital priority policy that helps guide decisions when contemplating capital budgets. And finally, council's strategic vision and priority chart, which provides direction to staff and gives staff kind of that, the boundaries in terms of what we can do or can't do. Most will be familiar with this table. This is council's strategic priorities. It sets the priorities. It helps keep both administration and council focused, as well as minimizing the creep of what those priorities are. It's also tied to the strategic plan. Administration continues to support Council's strategic vision and strategic priorities with a focus on operational excellence. Over the past number of years, the town has maintained a disciplined approach to organizational growth, ensuring resources and capacity remain aligned with service delivery needs while maintaining fiscal responsibility. Our FTE count has been stable. We have a new GL, new modern software when you look at Dayforce, our new ERP, as well as citywide, new budgeting process that is owned by finance, new asset management system nearing completion, and administration is guided by council's strategic vision and strategic priorities. Looking ahead, administration remains committed to continuous improvement and service excellence. With that said, we have delivered a huge amount of information to council. It's taken a lot of effort, so thank you to Jordan and Sonia in terms of compiling this. We've been working on this for years, and there's a huge amount of information and reports and background for this. And we've tried to present years and years of work in an hour, and I realize that's a lot for council to absorb in an hour, so we'd be happy to answer questions.
Very well done, Riley, and thanks to Jordan and Sonia as well. I will open it up to council for questions at this time. Councillor McGonigal.
Thank you all for the amount of work put into this. Okay, much appreciated. As council, firstly, I appreciate that you are all going through a transition period that has started in 2022 and is not complete yet, and I don't think was expected to be complete yet. And I appreciate that, and I understand that it makes working conditions challenging. On our side of the table, what we're tasked with is not necessarily looking at that transition. We're tasked with being able to evaluate at each council meeting where the financial health is standing, where the books are standing. We need to be able to go home after a council meeting and say, okay, we're all right. We know we're all right. This transition is happening, but we know that all of the financial reporting and recording is being done, and that we're either on budget, or we know where we're not on budget, or we know what we have to do to get back on budget. And when you're looking at clients, we're one of them. And that's the kind of basic information that I am looking for at every council meeting. And I understand that that kind of pulls you away from the work of bringing this new system on board. I get it. And to me, I don't care if I get it in a Word doc. It doesn't need to come out on a fancy program printout, but just that kind of basic, okay, this is up to date, this is up to date, we're good on this, we're good on that. Just that basic information that council needs to know so they can walk away and sleep at night and know that the town is going through a transition. But during the course of the transition, we are staying fiscally responsible. So that's my first issue. And I don't mean that to take away from all the work that you're tasked with, because I realize it's huge. You've got several programs now that need to be blended together. I could see that. And that's going to take work and effort. In the meantime, we still have to have that oversight. So that's my comment on the push-pull of your work and our work. There is a bit of a push-pull. And I'm not seeing, for myself, I'm not seeing enough of that Word doc that I'm talking about that says we're balancing, we're not bouncing checks anywhere, we're not having financial problems this month. We're good. And that's all I need, but I do need that. Thanks.
Yeah, we're not bouncing checks. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass, and thank you guys for that detailed, all that information. It is a lot. I don't feel that we need an update on every line item at every meeting. You guys do a great job of giving us detailed information on the items that are in the agenda. I do feel sometimes maybe having it maybe in an easier to read format of some sort, finding an acceptable way to have the information that is required in a, I guess, easy to read, easy to understand, transparent and accountable format. I think that's where we're trying to find the balance here, and with the new systems, it sounds like you guys are working on that, and that will become, or we can find a way to make that available. I also feel that it is our mandate to govern and oversight. I don't want to get into the weeds. We are not the operations. We need to remember that we need to leave the operations to you guys. We need to make sure that, yeah, checks aren't being bounced for sure. And having these kind of conversations and sharing this information definitely helps to alleviate some of that feeling. We are in a really good place in our town compared to other towns in Alberta. Myself being on the AB Munis board, I see that there are many towns that are not viable. They are over their debt limit ratios. They have to increase their taxes, double digits. We are in a great place, and I say thank you to past councils for making decisions that were made in order to do that, for sure. But we really need to stay, as council, we need to remember, we need to stay out of the operations. We're not telling you how to do certain things. We're giving you permission to do things and keeping us informed. You guys, I believe, have done a great job. The pool, for example, coming forward with the information. If we have questions, you answer them. And I appreciate that, so thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. I don't have anybody else on the docket, but what I would like to do is just go around the table with all councillors. Part of what Mr. Turner presented was wanting direct feedback from each councillor as to their thoughts on things. So I will start with Councillor Nychuk, I guess, or if you're ready. As to, just are you confident with where we're headed and with what's been presented today? Are you confident with where the position that? And I'm going to ask the gallery to just please remain quiet while we're trying to do this, please. Just are you confident with where the town is at, with what's been presented today, and with where we're headed? Councillor Nychuk, please.
Sure, I did have some questions to ask to the senior leadership team, and I was formulating that because that was a lot you guys threw at us. Thank you. And threw at us isn't the right way to put it. You took some time and effort and energy to put that forward here. Yep, sorry. If I lean in, are we good? Everybody in the back row? Okay, thank you. No, I was just expressing my thanks to leadership for what they put together. I believe I said that the information from today was going to go into the minutes, which are available, because I think that deck that you guys produced is pretty handy, and I think everybody here, some people took some notes that I saw, some people didn't. So for the people in the audience, I think that that deck is pretty valuable. Deck meaning the information that we saw on the screen, folks. I'd like to maybe go through some of my questions, but your direct question to me was what I thought of the general presentation. I think it's great. I think there's a lot of work still to be done in terms of bringing the organization into the realm that finance, operations, asset management is at right now from a more from I want to say from a global perspective. Software and assets are moving at light speed. I am ecstatic that we're moving in the direction that we are. Lots of my questions are in terms of how that all ties together and our ability to utilize AI for our benefit. Some things I heard there that really keyed with me was less task work and more analysis and strategy. I am less concerned about somebody's ability to put a set of numbers into a ledger sheet than their ability to understand what those numbers mean and be innovative and creative, and in your case, Jordan, sorry, for an employee in your department to come to you and say, hey, I recognize this or I saw that, instead of being at a desk for 8 or 10 hours and simply transferring information from one piece of paper to another so that it's recorded. The recording is very important, but the analysis of that information is more so important. I was taking my time and the mayor asked me to jump first, so pardon me while I kind of formulate, because that's what I was trying to do while I was sitting here, is how do I want to frame all these questions? And I guess I'll stay on finance for the time being. And Jordan, you mentioned about service improved across different silos. The one that resonated with me was residents. The word I didn't hear in there was business, but I think when you say residents, you mean everybody within the construct of our municipality, which would be individual residents or families, and then the businesses that reside here as well. So can you talk to me a bit about that improved service level and with how you're changing your department by use of technology, software, how that service level is improved to those customers, because that's just the way my mind goes, because I operate a business as well, and so I'm always thinking about the customer. In this case, the customer are residents, like you and me and everybody sitting here. So in that piece, how is that service level improved by everything that you just kind of talked about here today? Can you give me a real grassroots example? Like, does that mean if, somebody phones today and says, what about this or what about that on my taxes or what about this on my assessed value, that our access to data and information is that much more immediate, that we can be very customer focused, friendly, and forward in how we're resolving issues or answering questions? That was just an example. Sorry to put you on the spot, but maybe you have something that you can share with us.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. It is a big question. A part of the plan from the FFR was to actually do a whole study on what client service means for finance, given the unique environment that the municipality is in, or that municipality is. And one off the top of my head is just a reporting availability. I wish other people could understand just how big of a heavy lift the reporting is to pull from Bellamy. It takes a lot of staff time. It's very manual. It takes the data that we get isn't very clean, straight from the system. And so one obvious benefit for me is when that Business Central and the revenue module is in place and we've configured our reports, just how quickly we can spin out reports in a format that we want. And I think that would go with residents as well, or residents in the business community and other external stakeholders, as if there is specific reports that they might need to know or that's relevant to them, that we'd be able to easily pull that information out. As far as your question about taxation and assessment, I'm not sure what our finance function review would, or like the implementation of the finance function would do to help that, because right now we're pretty transparent with our taxation and assessment. Like, if you're looking for information, we are an open book. You can get whatever you want, and we strive and spend many hours to make sure that residents get what they're asking for. But surely with new technology, we can find ways that would make that even easier for us, rather than the slog if that information is in Bellamy.
Can I carry on, Mr. Mayor? Thank you. Appreciate that. Then in terms of finance leading the budget process, that makes really good sense to me, because that's, you're the keepers of the money. It could be argued that perhaps council should lead that, not through council's own decision, but through our interaction with residents in the community, and the budget would be led by council in the sense of what are our needs, where do our service levels need to be, what assets are we missing within our community. Sometimes we talk about sport and recreation, sometimes we talk about infrastructure. It's those things. So I see that role as a councillor now as, I'm going to say secondary to finance leading the budget, but still very, very, very important. In that budget process and having this kind of information and setting it up the way that you are, will we have the ability, when we are deliberating, and we talk about taxation all the time, and how we can manage, mitigate that for all of us as residents. We all understand that we are living in a society where costs are ever increasing. I don't want to use that as a crutch, but it's a fact. So how do we manage that best when we deliberate? Will we be able to immediately say, if we cut our snow clearing budget by X, that transposes through and we'll be able to see it? Or if we increase lawn mowing in the summer, what will that do? If we want to put in public transit, what would that do to this particular budget? I'm thinking the answer is yes. I don't know if we're quite there yet. Yeah, but I guess I'm looking for the yes or no answer. I don't think we're quite there yet, but.
Thank you for the question. I understand what you're asking. Yeah, service costing is a part of the plan that's the reason why the GL is set up that way, is in a cost center basis. And service level costing, the whole purpose of that is to show this is the cost of the service level that the town is providing right now. If you wanted to reduce that service, it would cost this. If you want to increase this service, it would cost more. And so that's a part of the plan, that's what the whole the purpose of that is, to get really clear on our costs, and that's true for utilities as well, so that we can get more accurate budget estimates and therefore more accurate understanding of what the taxation would be to maintain those services.
So carrying it forward a little bit and going to different departments within the organization, and the starting of budget process. We are currently not allotting a dollar figure to a manager in a department for X, Y, and Z within their department. It's, what do you need for next year and what's the cost? It's not, here's the dollars that you have, go spend it. It's the other side. So how the accessibility of the everyday employee, if I want to say that. We've got senior leadership sitting here, but those folks that say, I don't know, manage asphalt procurement, at the town yard. How available is this system going to be to them when they're developing their budget to strategize, prioritize, and be able to see, their little finalized budget in terms of the larger budget? Ultimately, once it comes to us, we have an entire package, but it starts at a very grassroots level and builds up to when you finally present a package to us. So I might be jumping ahead of myself in terms of where we're at with this current system, but I know just the utilization of AI within the business that I operate here and my management employees and what we're doing with that, it's absolutely amazing what it's taking off their desk on a daily basis, from just the mundane tasks to them being able to look at information and analyze and strategize rather than putting the information together. I'm concerned down to every level of employee and how we can utilize these advancements and the investment that we made in these programs. So do you have a vision on that piece? And I guess that could go to any of the three of you on how you see that facilitating through the organization.
good question. That's actually the most exciting part about the Business Central, the prospect of getting Business Central set up the way it is. I share what you just said there. It's exciting to think of having a co-pilot, like an AI element that goes through the actual system to see just how much easier it could be to do those kind of analysis that you're talking about. As far as Business Central goes, what we plan on doing is giving each budget leader like a user access to the actual system, like a read-only, so they can pull the reports at will. And with Copilot built in there, they could probably just generate their own prompts to figure out exactly what they need. One thing that Business Central is capable of is adding statistics as well. It's not just about financial information. We could add metrics in. So if in your asphalt example, if we get really sophisticated with it, we could add like tons of asphalt used, and then we could probably figure out a per, I don't know about asphalt, like a metric ton or something cost, so that they could extrapolate that out for the future with increasing costs. I think that, well, Business Central was a really good choice for that purpose, is that it's really the vision that we have, that we want to move forward, that we can do pretty much anything. And with Copilot, I agree. I think that it would be a game changer to see just how accurate and how good our analysis could be in the future.
I'd challenge if Copilot is the right choice, but anyway, that's
Me too.
That's a whole other.
It's a free choice.
Yeah, it's free. Yeah. In that you mentioned Business Central, and I did have a question there on. You kind of spoke to it, somewhat being a bolt-on to the foundational software that you're using. That sometimes presents its own problems. So how confident are we with the implementation partner, the facilitator, of bringing that Business Central piece into the mix? I like that. You just deflected that. That was beautiful. Sonia, you ready for that one? Is that, I'm looking for that confidence piece, because I've been down that road with Oracle and NetSuite. It didn't work for us, meaning the company. We had to go a different route. So I'm always leery of technology. Software is great, but sometimes it's very hard to integrate amongst different types, to put it simply. So I would hope we have a high degree of confidence that this is the right product, and the implementation partner can structure it so that it's seamless for us and doesn't create either speed bumps or brick walls.
Sure, I can speak to that. I think we have a lot of confidence in Business Central being the kind of core system for our finance management system. The bolt-on that you're talking about is a product through Syllogist, which is where also Bellamy is through. So it's basically the updated version of Bellamy that we are working on, and it's for the revenue models. What Business Central cannot do is generate tax notices, utility notices, or collect the revenue from that. MNP, we've been working with as a consultant, as the kind of our project manager for this process, is confident that those two programs will work very seamlessly together and integrate together. So I have a lot of confidence in MNP. We did have a bit of a bump with the vendor through Syllogist. They were not quite ready to go live. So we had done a lot of testing and realized that through that testing that there was still some gaps that were not going to make it viable to go forward with. They then went to, and we're implementing with a different municipality. So we were kind of sitting back and waiting for that municipality to go live to see how it went. And we are now confident that that municipality has gone live. They've kind of worked through all of the blips, and we are on track right now, as far as I know, to go live with Syllogist on August 24th. And I'm feeling confident in that new date. I hope that answered your question.
Thanks very much. I guess I'm going to rewind just a little bit why I've gone down this line of questioning, and it comes from John through to the Ratepayers group, and what you presented at council on those questions. And I think it's important. Is this thing working well? I think it's important that we have the ability to answer those questions and have those processes and have that pathway in place. And I think this speaks to our desire to have that readily accessible. That doesn't mean that we don't need to answer some questions for the public right now. We're not waiting to answer questions for people. We are building a system that is robust and gives us a very great sense of immediacy when we want to access that data in different ways that people ask for it. Your group has asked for it in a certain way. Other groups have asked us, groups or individuals have asked us for information in different ways. So access to the information that's immediate is one thing, and then being able to construct it in a response that is appropriate for the person asking is another. And I think this structure is taking us there. And I'll reiterate the confidence that comes from you guys that we're getting there sooner than later. Although, like I said at the start of this, things change on a daily basis. And it's, if you don't jump in the pool, so to speak, you never get started. So I think we're well on our way to having something that's robust and is going to serve council, administration, and the residents very well. So I'll leave it at that. I had some things for Riley, but I've taken up a bunch of time and I want to turn it over to my fellow council mates.
Thanks, Councillor Nychuk. I'll go to Councillor Cooey, please.
Thanks, Reagan. Thanks very much. Again, a lot of information thrown at us, and I won't take a lot of time because I really want to understand the concerns of this group, and if we've highlighted some of those today. My big question was similar to Councillor Nychuk's, which you've answered about the confidence in the program and the integration of them. I think that's great. The confidence level, yeah, we're on the right track. I believe we're on the right track. We've got the right tools. We're utilizing industry standards, recognizing along the way there's always room for improvement. And as we work through all of this, I think that's the most important thing, that we're always working to do better and provide better. When we look through this last budget process, of all of them I've been through, this has been one of the best. The fact that finance is leading it, it kind of staggers me that you weren't leading it before. So again, another step right forward. Asset management has always been a priority to me and a responsible model for doing business. So that's going in the right direction. At the end of the day, what's most important is that we have easily understandable, reliable, comparable information, and I think we're on the right track to getting there. Are we nailing it today? Maybe not, but I think we're on the right track. So I think I am confident in the situation. From today, what I really would like to know is, looking at this group's list, have we answered some of those questions, concerns? I really just want to understand where your concerns lie in comparison to the list and the information that was provided today.
Thanks, Kathy. Councillor Barton.
Thank you. I thought I was going to have nothing to say after listening to everybody here. So I echo the very same things that Councillor Cooey and Councillor Nychuk have brought up. As I was going through the page that the Ratepayers group had sent in their delegation request, I think it's safe to say that most of the items that were in there, I noticed that we've touched on, or in progress of, or have already achieved certain portions of it. And I feel, again, like them, very confident in the direction we've been going, because we've actually been talking about this probably about 2 years now, I would guess, is when we kind of started the process, right? This is something that I don't want to say we anticipated that this was going to happen. We anticipated that we needed to make a significant change. Didn't know what it was going to look like in entirety, but I do feel confident. Again, I don't want to take up a bunch of time because I want to leave some time for the Ratepayers group. So back to you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Brookwell.
Also, I'd like to thank you guys for putting this all together. The only thing I was just wondering, and I agree that like the reporting is probably the biggest part of all of this. making it the most accessible that we can and the easiest format to read it so that you don't need to be an accountant to CPA to understand where we're going with what we're heading on. The other question I kind of had was just, do we where's our final timeline? Are we looking at the end of this year? We end in look middle of next year, or where? And I do agree with you guys leading on the budget, because that gives us the real numbers. And then what we've heard from residents of High River to what they were hoping for or what they feel we're falling short of. So, but with you leading, then at least we know our costs and where we're at. And I'm glad to hear that you're confident with the integration as well. And again, I would like to thank you guys for what you put together. Yeah, sorry, could you?
Yes. Thank you for the question. I'm going to answer it's the question about the timeline, I believe is the one that you were asking about. Can I ask a clarifying question on the timeline for ERP implementation, on the full transformation? Like, kind of what was your thinking on that?
Mostly like where it's all talking together kind of thing, the sort of the full transformation to where we'll actually see sort of the end goal, I guess.
Understood. Okay. So for the ERP transformation, the go live, which is when we actually are operating it, is going to be in August, tentatively, according to our project managers. So that's when we can actually start utilizing it for our operations. But after that, as a lot of projects like this can bring up, is we got to configure it and build it to the way that we want it. So that takes an additional time. And I can't give you an estimate on exactly how long it's going to take from that go live piece to where we are fully operational. We can get the reports, the custom reports that we all want. I don't know how long that will take, but I'm hoping for 2027 is when you'll start to see these like regular cadences of reports that even I want to see in a format that you can understand. So 2027 is my goal, but until we get into the system and start looking at what's required to configure and build those processes out, we'll have to update you on a more realistic timeline at that point.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Jones?
Thank you. I definitely look forward to the ability to access the information to answer the questions from the community as well as from council more accurately in a I guess a faster timeline and I guess for me easier to understand. When we do get our information, I mean a lot of times it is all in there, but it's kind of cumbersome to pull out information quite easily and readily. I'd like to see quarterly reports that come with our quarterly strategic updates with a budget summary that has sort of the different departments as well as major projects, maybe an explanation of increases or decreases, comparisons to other years if required, and risks possibly that you see affecting the budget. I'd like to see some of those things come forward at least quarterly for sure.
Thanks, Jenny. I don't. Since I started, 13 years ago, the first budget that we went through was a weird monster. Back then, it was really, really difficult to, coming from the business world into the municipal world, and all the different aspects of muni finances. It's an absolute monster. That's not like a single entity business. The number of divisions and how they all integrate with each other, it's an absolute monster. And I can go back to the spreadsheet, these massive spreadsheets that I created myself so that I could go through the binders we used to get. Kathy and Michael, you'll remember them. Weighed as much as a truck that you had to pack around with you. And to try to decipher it and making these spreadsheets and everything, and it was brutal. absolutely brutal. We've come a long way through there. And one of the biggest things that we recognized was that Bellamy software and how archaic it was and cumbersome it was for our finance teams to try to generate at work with my little QuickBooks program. It's 2 mouse clicks and I'm in. I can see everything. That you could not do with the Bellamy software. It took a team of 19 people to go through and bring everything together. So we understood that, which is why a big part of the finance review came into play was, how can we do this better? What's out there for better software? You don't just use QuickBooks for municipal software. Doesn't have that capability. So that's where we went into all this stuff. And like Jenny said, even way back when we were asking for quarterly reporting, well, it just was way too cumbersome to get, so we always had to kind of wait for budget process. So we've recognized that, and Garth, you're absolutely right. Like back then, you absolutely needed to be a CPA with full access to that software yourself to be able to start to generate that, which council does not have access to that software. So going through and going back to what Mr. Turner and the Harvard Ratepayers group and their delegation request and that piece. So, my biggest thing is that we are meeting all of the GOA legislative requirements with our reporting. That's the number one thing that we absolutely have to do, which we are doing. Number 2 is to provide a transparent budget process for the majority of our residents based on council's direction. We are the elected body of the town of High River, and we direct administration to what that reporting looks like. And if it's quarterly reporting or however, then will be council's decision as to how do we do this. As well as I said, just the reporting and what types of reports we want generated and posted. And again, that's all council direction. Now, for the ratepayers and Mr. Turner, as you have kind of been appointed the lead on this, if you're not satisfied with that, then you absolutely have other avenues that you can progress with, and that's number 1, lodging complaints with Alberta municipalities, with the government of Alberta, and the Alberta Ombudsman. You can go right on their website and submit a complaint if you're not satisfied with the direction and the reporting that this council is providing you. Both of those entities will have the choice as to whether they conduct an investigation and recommendations and everything else. It's not uncommon. Like Jenny said, it's happening with many municipalities. So for myself, yes, I am very confident with our senior leadership team. I'm confident with every staff member of the town of High River. I appreciate so much with your presentation today and where we're headed, and the focus on, Jordan, I'm looking at you especially, the focus on this transformation to the new software. And there's no secrets, there's no hidden agendas, there's none of that's in play at all. We have no problem whatsoever in providing you the information. It's just right now, it's really difficult to just hit 2 clicks and send that to you in an email by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we're getting there, we're moving there. Back to Mr. Turner's delegation and the initial thing that sparked all of this. There is a motion in there that you have recommended, and it's up to any councillor to bring that forward as a notice of motion to a meeting to have council vote on what that direction looks like. So We are at 11:35. We got 25 minutes left. John, do you want to say anything, or?
Craig?
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, Vicky. I do. Thank you.
I really appreciate the high-level approach that we're taking. We're looking at long-term where we want to be and how we are getting there and the progress that we're making getting there. But we're essentially the equivalent of a small public corporation. They have to, even when they're going through change and restructure and all kinds of things that organizations do, they still have to do a regular report to the shareholders. And I think that's what's being asked for here, is the residents would like a regular report to the residents about the financial status. And I'm going to compare it to one more thing. If you're a family of 4, and you got a kid in diapers and a kid in high school, and you decide you're going to build a new house, that's a big project. It's good overall for the family. It's going to get the family where the family wants to be. But while you're building it, you still have to diaper the baby. You still have to get groceries every day for the kids. You still have to do the ongoing basic work that your family requires. Well, think of the residents as your family. We're going through this high level, and we're changing on 2 things. We're changing not only all the software, but we are changing even the very structure of the finance department. And those are all good things, but we have to make sure that while we're doing that, we are providing the necessary information, firstly, to the residents that they require, and at the very least, to council. And I'm telling you that the information that I'm getting is insufficient for me not to be confident of what's happening large scale down the road, but to be confident of what happened last week. I just want to know that the day-to-day is being maintained, and I want to be able to prove it to myself and to a resident who asks me by saying, yes, I'm getting these updated reports. Yes, we're fine. We're doing well. And the icing on the cake is we're going to do better 2 years from now. But we've been working on this since 2022. So we can't be Pollyanna-ish about it. We can't say, okay, we'll be fine. We've been working at it since 2022, and we don't need to do any more detailed information to councillors because, golly, in 2027 we'll be done. And that will be wonderful. But in the meantime, I have to get dressed every morning and know that I'm doing the proper level of oversight. So that's all I'm asking for, is that we put the diapers on the baby, make sure there's milk in the fridge, and carry on. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor. John, did you want to come forward at all, and do you have any? And just so that you know, like, we do have a very busy afternoon because of the other meetings, so we got the 20 minutes left. So.
Okay, thank you. Today was, I think, a very good start. This is what we have had in mind, and I realized today was like an enormous backlog of information that got dropped on everybody here today, council and us included. I'm not sure how much of that information council was already aware of, what was going on behind the scenes, and so I would say you're pretty much up to date now on all of this work, and I agree, it's headed in the right direction. Today's focus was very much on finance. The other part of what we want to know is the actual plans. So what's going on with the plans, the strategic priorities, the new capital projects, where are they at? And I would suggest that you probably would like to know that too. So we're halfway through the fiscal year. There was 21 new capital projects. Where are you at with them? And I heard a lot of good some good questions here. Council is client, that you want more analysis in the reporting so that it tells you something. It's an analysis of thousands of transactions. Council involvement in budget development. So that's what instructions have you given and where are you at with those instructions? So you've asked for a lot of things here today about reporting. You need to clarify that. And we'd like to hear what you've instructed administration to do. For instance, many municipalities use a feature called a dashboard, right? So it looks like something in your vehicle, your fuel gauge, your speedometer, your engine RPM, those types of things. So if you're instructive about that, that's right there on some of the websites. City of Edmonton, I think, they actually have a page of it. And anybody can go in and have a look at it, and it'll tell you at a glance what's going on. So that's an instruction that if you give that to admin, we would like to see that at one of your council meetings. You have a conversation, formulate that instruction, and then report on it quarterly. And I think Councillor Jones said you'd like to see these quarterly reports, but something that is you can look at it and you're up to speed real quick. The other thing too is projections. The snapshot of where we are at currently financially, great. Where are we going to be in 5 years? We have a $35 million wastewater treatment facility out there in the future. What's the strategic plan for financing? That needs to be worked on as well. So again, those are instructions that you give to administration. You know, we need to be able to see the future as a projection of what we're doing too. And I did like, the question, I think Councillor Brookwell, about what's the completion date? When are you going to go live? And I realized go live sometimes, is a pretty loose term. It may not totally work, but you need to go live to find out where it doesn't work. And then the last thing I think I would comment on is the citywide portal. I really like that software as a service approach. And the one thing that I find with it is when you do report a concern, it's a very narrow band what you can talk about. Like there's nothing in there where you could say, hey, I got some feedback. You could improve this interface with us if you did this and this and this. So again, we're a client, you're a client. Internally, you have your own clients that you need to service here. So I think today was a great start, and I hope that we will see these quarterly updates and in a format that everybody can understand and appreciate, and bring us up to date on not just on where we are, monetary, but where we are on our plans, current plans and future plans. So that we get that level of confidence. We get a level of confidence is that money is being spent wisely. So I don't know if anybody disagree with that.
So just to, and we can do that, John. So just to address one piece, and that's your reporting on the website, like what the City of Edmonton or City of Calgary uses. That's absolutely what we have discussed with where we're going with the new website. Our old one did not have those kinds of capabilities. Your website technology changes by the hour and what you're able to do with it. So that is absolutely what we have talked about through when we implemented the new website changes through the budget. It's exactly what we're looking for, is to be able to provide exactly those dashboard kind of pages. Right now, and it always has been with the town websites, it's very hard to find information. The search engines suck. Like, they're just brutal. I can't go in and do it. And I'm constantly complaining to these guys as to where is this? Why won't the search engine find it? So we're very, very aware with that. As far as the implementation of all this stuff and the completion date, I don't think there ever will be a completion date. This is just a monster that constantly is evolving, and we need to change with it and not fall behind as we did in the past. So appreciate it. So is there anyone else? John, that you wanted to? No? Yeah, go ahead. Can you come to the mic, please, sir? Just because we're live streaming, so we want to make sure that it's on.
No problem. Thank you. My name is Daniel Laszlo. I'm a newbie to High River and very proud to be a new resident. Moved from Chestermere, and you all know the history that existed there for the past while. I really like the analogy that was brought to the table about the various roles, about the residents being the shareholders, the council being the executive leadership team, and the business is run by qualified, senior level, high experienced professionals. And I think when I listened, the first thing that popped into my head was, perhaps, has there been a discussion, or is there room for discussion, facilitated discussion between the executive leadership team and the business on what the key performance indicators are? What are they for the shareholders? What are they for the executive leadership team? And what are the key performance indicators in each of the silos to make sure that they all line up and provide that transparency that everybody understands? You can't have 150 key performance indicators. You can't. That's the struggle. My career was 35 years in risk management and business optimization, continuous improvement. So the language I understand very clearly. And Mayor, your comment about the complexity, you called it a monster. It's always going to be complex, but if you have variability in your key performance indicators that line up long-term, 5 years, and there's a facilitated discussion, everyone here has an idea what we should be looking at. You bring those together, that satisfies the need that the tax dollars that you're collecting and other means of finance thread into those key performance indicators, and all of the accountabilities are met in doing that. So the gap that I would see is, has that discussion taken place between this group and the executive team with some consultation to the shareholder or the residents? Say, what are our key performance indicators? So one example might be tax rate increase compared to the rest of the world. You know, those types of things that the shareholders, common shareholders, and the demographics of those shareholders would have some concern with. So you're really pacifying the needs through understanding what key performance indicators matter to each group. So.
Appreciate it. Sonia, do you want to respond to that a little bit? Because things we do and things we talk about all the time are exactly that.
Yes.
You know, budget process and how our tax rates compare to other communities and those things. Those are absolutely things we always discuss within budget meetings for sure. But you know, they're discussions. They're not really reports that are posted anywhere for, you know, somebody to access any day of the year, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit to that. So in municipal government, we don't use key performance indicators as you would in private industry because they're really difficult, as I talked about earlier. We are service-based, so it's difficult to do that. That doesn't mean we don't have performance measurement. We just do it in a different way that would look different than what key performance indicators would be. Some of our we look at service levels. So recently, we sent out a survey to the community asking for, what are your service level interests? Like, and do you think that they're right? And then we take that information in this year's budget for 2027, and we'll be bringing that forward to council, saying this is what the community wants from a service level perspective, and we build the budget around those service level requests. or input from the community. We also use performance measurement, as Jordan had indicated earlier, around what the province's requirements are from financial place, and then we also our priorities that come from council. So those performance, the priority is, and then we measure when we complete them. And then our CAO all the way down to all levels of staff have performance evaluations every year that are tied to those priorities and goals as well. I hope that helps a little bit.
For sure. Thanks, Sonia. Appreciate it.
Yep,
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Maureen?
Oh, Maureen Moncrief. I just want to thank you for the presentation. However, we had a lot of people come out to watch this presentation, and this is not, to us, I'm feeling it's not the information we were expecting to hear here. We were kind of expecting to see some of the reports, not how admin does the reports. I feel a lot of people here are pretty upset that they came here for 2 hours and what was presented here is not what was presented to us. What we had brought as the ratepayer group requesting all this information, none of it was really brought forward to the people.
That's a motion that was written by your group or John or whoever, and that's what I said earlier, is that council is going to, if any member of council wants to bring that forward at a regular council meeting as a notice of motion, then we can vote on what will be, how that's dealt with, how our reporting's dealt with.
Okay, I just feel that maybe some people
I
here
understand
thought
that.
they wasted their time coming here to listen to this
Yep.
when we were expecting something else. Thank you.
Okay, yep, understood. Councillor Nychuk, I got two councillors that want to.
Thanks. Just for my clarification, through to John, if you don't mind, and if you want to come. Yeah, I don't think I need you to come to the mic, but quarterly seemed to be where you were speaking, that you'd be okay from a, let's talk about the strategic plan and reporting that back to the public. We as council with senior leadership team and whoever else might need to attend from administration, get together on a quarterly basis to review the strategic plan and talk about it. So out of that, I'm feeling, and I mean, this is just me talking, not the rest of council, but that we can generate a report out of that that helps facilitate some of this and what you were asking for. And I guess my question is quarterly sufficient? If we seem to be, in today's day and age, I don't want to say blurring the line, but that's the only way I can really explain it, between business and governance. People understand for a large part, all of us have worked for somebody or run a business, owned a business, whatever it might be, so we talk and think in terms of that. Municipalities are different. Governance is different, but being that the public is asking for information in a way they understand, I feel it's something that we should be able to communicate in that language. So talking about a business or a corporate structure, which our new resident, formerly from Chestermere, alluded to, and welcome. In that, you have a shareholders group, either it's an annualized meeting where people can attend, or it's quarterly information that's disseminated. Sometimes there's a meeting that some people attend, some people don't, but generally there's quarterly reporting. That is changing in today's business world. Some companies are moving to semi-annual, but that's another topic. So the question is quarterly good on the reporting for something like strategic planning? And I guess I'm asking you if you can speak on behalf of your group.
Well, for me personally, I believe it's quarterly, because right now, we don't see that information readily coming forward.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to lay some of those parameters down so that we can communicate in the way that our residents want to hear it. So I kind of heard from Councillor McGonigal, and excuse me if I'm wrong, but I was hearing that she'd like to have a report at every council meeting. I might think that's a bit much in terms of thinking from a business world perspective. I don't need to see that on a daily, weekly basis. My CFO will come to me and say, hey, listen, we have a problem if there's a problem, if the roof is falling in. Otherwise, quarterly is just fine to give me the overall snapshot. So in terms of the strategic planning or in terms of financial performance, in my mind, I was thinking quarterly because that's what I thought I was hearing from you. So if that's where it's at, I just appreciate understanding that, so that we are reporting in a fashion that you have an expectation for.
Just to clarify, what we're asking for is you get the quarterly reports.
Just because nobody can hear you.
Yeah, all right, sorry. To clarify, we were asking that council get the quarterly reports and we get to be in the audience when they're presented. So it wasn't, what I'm looking for or what it might be, what the general consensus is. We were just saying is that we would like to see you be informed on how the situation is right now, and something like a monthly report might be an exception, a variance if something has happened that we didn't expect. Some risk contingency actually happened.
Yeah, but we want to report that back in a transparent fashion. So I'm not saying that reporting is directly for you or your group, but just as a general in the community for that it would come here. Like Craig mentioned, the strategic planning that we do on a quarterly basis, we talk about a lot of things. Have we formalized, there is a report there, but have we taken it to a more finite or detailed perspective that we can share so people have more understanding? Sorry if I'm dumbing it down for myself, but I'm just trying to get it to a place where we can speak about it or have a document that we can give to whoever's sitting in the audience and go, here's what happened in the last quarter. There you go. Yes, we talked about it here. We talked about it with administration on a daily, weekly basis. As councillors, we have this information circulating all the time. It's not readily apparent for the public, but I understand in today's day and age, people want to be more involved and have more understanding. There's generally there's generally a distrust for governance. There is, and that's understandable. Like, we all pay taxes in a municipal level, provincial level, and federal level. We all take that and go, that's our money and we want it spent properly. We might not agree with everything a municipality or a provincial or a federal government does because we all have our own individuality. Some people might want it spent on soccer balls. Some people might want it spent on swimsuits for that's just an example. So we all have differences, but somewhere we try to meet in the middle. So the transparency piece is getting to be really important for me so that we can communicate back to each resident how that's being spent. You still might not agree with the way it's being spent, and that's our own individual opinion on that, but just trying to dumb it down for myself so we end up getting you guys the right thing that you're asking for, because there was quite a list that was presented to us. And in that, how do we get that information out is what I'm trying to formulate in my head right now. So I'm here, back to the very start, I'm hearing quarterly. If that's acceptable, then it gets me thinking about, okay, how do we structure that and what does that come out in? It might not be a perfect document the first time we do it, because we'll have dialogue back and forth and people say, I want it, I want this, or I want that, I'd like to see this or that. And we'll continue to work on that so that we're presenting it and we're as transparent as we can be so you folks see how it's working.
Well, the presentation today, I mean, that would be a level of detail that I wouldn't expect quarterly. But you now have a lot of information that you can boil that down to some key points and say, at the end of the third quarter is, okay, then back in July, you talked about this and this, where are you at now? Did go live go well? Live? Did it go well? That sort of information. So it's transparency and it's accountability is, it's not about, distrust, it's about lack of information to me that leaves a void, and then I have to fill it with my own perceptions, and they may not be accurate. So if you've given instruction, there's quarterly reports, we can all understand them, and we're just the audience, we're just listening to what you're doing, that's all. So, you know, you make the decisions, and if I wanted soccer balls and I didn't get them, tough, you know.
Yeah, a pretty rudimentary example, but no, thank you. And that, I mean, that to me, that brings the dialogue back from the community, right? If we present that information and you're kind of saying, yeah, we want to hear it, but from that is that next step for me is, okay, now you see it, now you understand it, now as individual councillors, whether you phone us, email us, see us on the street, there's that dialogue back with how you think and feel and want. So important. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Councillor Cooey?
Thanks very much, and thanks very much, John. I think when I read the document that was presented to us, I'm going to read the one section. Be it resolved by council that effective immediately, council initiate the following standard reporting procedure. So the ask that I see that came to staff and council was to review how we report, not to actually provide answers to these documents. Any changing to our reporting was not going to happen until after this meeting. Sounds like there's some great dialogue that we are going to look at some changes going forward. But as I read this document here, it was asking us to change the way we report. It was not providing those documents in detail because we wouldn't provide them in this way until council gave staff directive. So the information I hope I get from Mr. Turner has been helpful, and I think we're working our way through some great discussions and moving forward. But I think for an expectation to have those bullet points answered based on how this documentation was written was not expectation that staff or council would have anticipated.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else before we adjourn quickly? Ma'am?
Hi, my name is Estelle Gosling, and I've been involved in a few mergers, whether it's big companies, and I've also worked municipally. And I'm really concerned that this is taking 4 years to implement. Yes, it is a lot of work. I know it. I've been there. But 4 years is a long time, and I would like to see this wrapped up and be utilized. This is unacceptable. Thank you.
Thanks, Estelle. No one else? Meeting adjourned, 12:02.